Yo, check this out. I gotta show you something. I made another one of these fake multiplayer things. We got a tray flip lip, backside heel, and oh, filmer starts flexing again with a half cab. Switch front crook 180 out, and then as he lines up for his front board, we set up for a backboard. So sick, dude. Tray flip. So today we're gonna bail on El Toro is what we're gonna do first off. And what I want to do is I want to sort of pop open the hood and check what's underneath such a clip. All right, so freeze frame on this for a second. Look at this. Ain't she a beauty? Absolutely excruciating. So here's the original clip. All right, let's take a look at what it looks like without the filmer actually in the shot. So the first thing you'll notice is we're actually simulating what the filmer is going to be doing, what they're going to be looking at. So the idea here is you have to have in mind in advance what tricks your filmer will be doing, and you have to film the skater's line accordingly. All right, that would definitely be step one in this process. By the way, this is not a tutorial, this is not a how-to, all right? This is literally just taking a quick overview look at what went into this, because if I want to do a step-by-step process, this is going to take well over an hour, and I'm not into that. And definitely 100% save your replay as soon as it's done and filmed and everything is set, all right? And after that, you get out of the replay editor, you set up for your trick, and you do your first trick. Simply do it. So here we got the double push glitch into a half cab off the stairs, and really important, let the skating go on for a while after landing your trick. Like all the way up here is good. So actually one of the main first steps here is to have your filmer flexing trick immediately after your fully keyframed skater timeline, right? So you want to have both on the same timeline like this, so that you can skip, as you'll see later, between the trick on the skater's clip and the trick on the filmer's clip on the same timeline. And here is when I'm starting to think the main way to go about this would be to copy paste keyframes, all right? And you can't copy paste keyframes in session. So what we're gonna do instead is we're going to mark the middle of the trick with just a random keyframe in the middle of the trick when it happens, all right? And then remove all of these keyframes all the way up until maybe 5 or 6 keyframes after landing the actual half cab, all right? So right about here should be good. And now we're gonna go to the middle of the half cab with montage view on, which keeps the camera looking at what it's supposed to look at for that keyframe. Turn montage view off, and then you snap all the way to the middle of your trick. Bring your skater in view, your filmer rather, and set in your keyframe. And that becomes the keyframe for the middle of the trick for the filmer. And now begins the process of copy pasting, where you go one frame at a time, you snap montage view on, put the camera where it's supposed to be, and then go all the way to the other side of the timeline and set in the keyframe after putting the skater in view, all right? And this is the only reason why we remove all of these keyframes, is so that we can have less keyframes to cycle through in order to snap to the end of the timeline. So what is the point of doing all of this in this exact way, you ask? Well, I was hoping you'd ask. The main strategy when doing this is always going to be having the ground flowing in the same direction in both clips when you overlay them, so that you can perform the magic trick, the switcheroo, that. And what happens when you don't respect this constraint, you subsequently ask? Well, you will see precisely what happens when you don't do that correctly at exactly later in this video. Anyway, so let's expedite this process a little bit and I'll show you the final result. So here it is, after having copy pasted everything, and you can see we're clipping into the skater. So this is when we can start cheating the camera a little bit. So we go to the keyframe that's bugging and we readjust the framing on it. Overall, it's not as bad as it seems. let's skip ahead and I'll show you the actual final product. So here's what it looks like in the end. We're not clipping into anything. We have a little bit of camera shake that I decided to keep, but that was not intentional. So that was it. That was the half cab. One of the main strategies here, as you can imagine, is having a moment in your filmer's flexing clip where they're looking at something very uniform. Like the ground here is an obvious example. That is the moment where the magic happens, where we wipe from one clip to the other, as you'll see a little bit later in this video. But for now, let's take a look at the board slide. So for the second trick, for any other trick that you might have in a line like this, you gotta reload your initial replay. And you gotta make sure to scrub through the timeline or hit play for like a second, so that it records the position of your skater. And then exit. Then you set up for your trick and you do said trick. Wow, I had to bail, right? So I ended up trying this a few times. Let's skip ahead until I actually landed properly. And there it is. So at this point, whatever I showed you for the half cab is going to be the exact same thing. At this point, it's really entirely the same kind of copy pasting process. So let's speed through it. So here's the raw clip, fully copy pasted, clipping into the skater and all that. And here's the sort of final clip with the camera work adjusted so that we're not clipping into anything. As you can see, I'm being sort of meticulous, scrubbing through it slow-mo to make sure we're not seeing anything weird. That'll be good. It's really the same process for any of these tricks. So now the thing is, you save your clip, then you go into your apartment, you change clothes, you reload your clip, and you film it with different clothes. And that's how you get two different people wearing two different clothes in the same clip. So let's start mixing things up, alright? So here we are in Premiere. Like I said, let's pop open the hood and let's see what this is all gonna look like. So this is what it looks like. Just the main clip right over here and the filmer clips overlaid on top of it. Let's take a look at the half cab first, alright? So one thing that you can notice is that I split the skater's clip in half between these two, and I have the filmer's clip just go right over it. And before we're gonna look at that, I just want to show you the simple way of doing things over here, where we have just the skater's line and the filmer's line overlaid on top. One thing you're gonna notice on the screen is the skater is semi-transparent, and that is honest to God just because the keyframes were copy pasted perfectly. And I'm not trying to be pretentious. This is like the best case scenario, and I have barely any control over how well this turns out. Like if I deactivate the filmer's clip, then it brings into full view the skater's clip, and you can see how perfectly lined up it is. And this is why we copy paste keyframes in session before exporting our clips. This is exactly the reason why. But we just need to move forward a tiny bit, and we can already start seeing it sort of fall out of sync. It becomes this sort of hazy, kind of dream-like skating on top of skating situation. And we see how the cracks don't line up perfectly. But here is the inconspicuous moment where we can wipe away the filmer's clip and leave the skater's clip full screen. And again, somehow, by pure sheer luck, everything is perfectly synced up. You can see how the tree is perfectly lined up, but as you can see, this curvy line here and this one below it, this is the speed. So I'm bringing the speed up over here. We're at like 164% speed as we're rolling away, and we bring it back down to normal speed, then we bring it back up to like 150. So messing with the speed this much means that it's gonna look very janky when we bring it back up to normal speed, all right? And that is why we have to split it this way. So we have this clip, the skater's clip, that plays up until we don't need it anymore, right? When we see him roll off screen, then we cut the clip off. Then we keep this one at its regular speed and we have it play naturally. And then when it is best for us to do so, we start playing the skater's clip again and we do the thing, all right? And what thing exactly am I talking about? It's gonna be this right over here. the mask path. This was a trial and error gauntlet. All right, and it was fun the whole way through, but man, was it arduous. All right, so here is what it looks like without further ado. Right now we're looking at the skaters clip, all right? And as the filmer starts looking down, then we tuck the skater into their little corner, and the bottom part, the major part of what you see right now, is the half cab clip right here, all right? And as we move forward, we keep the skater tucked into their little corner, and as they ride off screen, we just wipe away the clip entirely, to the point where we actually cut it off. We don't need to have that clip rolling there anymore, and we start playing the clip again when it is pertinent for us to do so, and simply wipe the clip away as we pan the camera upward to look at the skater. And that's it, Bob's your uncle. And you can see this little dotted line, this is the feather. So if we bring this down to 0, then you will see the actual line when we wipe around. You see that? So it's really important to have a really big ass feather. That's it. Let's take a look at the board slide, because it is a work of art. Let's give it a quick overview just to take a look at what that mask do, you know? So slowly creeping in the filmer, but still watching the skater's clip in major part. Micromanaging the arm, micromanaging the leg over here. So frame by frame I had to cut out the leg, and the reason for that is because if we look just under the sheets, you can see how the rail just doesn't line up properly. You can see that it just sort of splits in half, so between the two clips, which aren't lined up correctly. And that is because we messed with the camera work a little bit too much. We readjusted it a little bit too much between the two clips. So I knew that I could fix this using the mask by just micromanaging this way. So I went ahead and did it. Just wanted to show you that little tidbit there. You can see how all of this is just holding together with duct tape and tie wraps at this point. So now we're watching the skater's clip full screen actually. You can see the mask is completely off screen. If we move forward just a little bit more, we're gonna see that I'm showing only the feet of the filmer's clip, and I'm making sure to show the ground of the skater's clip. And as we move forward, you can see a little bit, there's one frame where the mask just fails to work. So for one frame we see the filmer's clip full screen, and there's nothing I could do about it. But you didn't notice, and that's the important part. After that, wipe the feet away, and there it is. That was it. One thing that I really want to show you here is these keyframes where we modify the clip's position and rotation. Alright, so here's what that looks like. You see the blue outline here showing exactly the rotation of the filmer's clip, right? The filmer's feet. And as we start setting up for landing, I rotate the clip almost 45 degrees. And the reason for that is because if we didn't do it, here look. Let me show you what the problem was initially. Remove all of that, remove all of these keyframes, and put the opacity at 50% so we can see both clips. So now that I set it up this way, let's take a look at the rest of the clip. You can see how for one small moment, some things are lined up, most aren't. And as we do the board slide, we're just basically GTA 4 drunk, right? So everything is looking completely hazy. You can see the awnings up on top that are just completely out of whack. But the important part that I want to bring your attention to is this. I rotated the camera a bit too much in the filmer's clip, and now the ground is flowing in two different directions. We have this sort of cloudy haze of concrete just happening before us, and you cannot fix this with masking. That is why I had to rotate the clip. So we Control Z back into safety, please, and make sure that the clip is running in the same direction on both sides. And that is how you fix that. And that would be the interesting little tidbits that had to go into making this clip. Overall, I'd say it was about 4 or 5 hours of work total, which means from the moment that I landed the trick and started filming it in session to the final product, all right? And most of that work was, like I said, passing through the gauntlet of trial and error with the mask pathing. And this rotation thing, I didn't have to do it in the first clip that I made, so this one was new to me. Pretty proud of myself because I had to power my way through it. The only other option was just to give up and start over, and I wasn't about that life. So there you have it. The next time you see me post something like this, you'll be aware that this is what I'm working on to get it done. But until then, I'll be wishing you patience for your practice. This video is a very good example of what I mean by that. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.